Nice to have you again. And before we start, we're going to play one of my favorite hymns. When we all get to heaven, it's so nice to have you again. And this lesson, we are going to be putting together our left hand and our right hand while reading. I know we have touched on it before in some of the previous classes, but this time we're going to look at it a little bit closer. Now, remember, if you'll walk with me over to the board, we are reading music. Now, on our chart, here, you'll remember that this is a grand staff. The grand staff consists of 2 or more staffs. We have our treble clef and our bass clef. Remember that our treble clef is also called the G clef, and our bass clef is also called the F clef. And the thing that is so funny about the treble clef and the bass clef, or the G clef and the F clef, is that on the F clef, the lowest note is G, and on the G clef, the highest note is F. So remember that. Now we are going to review how is it that we look at the lines and spaces and remember them. So remember now, when you go from a line to the space just above it, it moves up 1 letter in the musical alphabet. The musical alphabet, of course, goes from A to G. So when we start at G here, that simply means we start over at A in the next space. Line B, space C, and we continue from line to space D, E, F, G, and the top line on the F clef is A. Now, just above the line, because you have to have a space after the line, we have B. And if you should look at the treble clef, we have that lowest line, and just below that lowest line, we have a note in a space, because there must be a space that follows the line. So if we have a space here and a space there, there must be a line that comes in between. That line is a ledger line. That ledger line only exists if a note is on it. And that ledger line is C. And it's middle C. And it's so significant because middle C is the C that is closest to the middle of the piano. And of course, it comes smack in the middle of the grand staff. Then after that C line is a space, the space just below the lowest line on our G clef, and that is E. Then F in the space, G on the line, A, B, C, D, E, F, if we should go from line to space. And we're reviewing now, if we should remove just the lines and put them together, we would get G, B, D, F, A, C, E, G, B, D, F. And I have written it out here. G, B, D, F, A, C, E, G, B, D, F. So, why is this important? Let's say you say a note and the note is written on this line. Now, remember, it's wherever the head of the note is. That's where that note takes its name. So all you have to do, remember that it's on the line and our lines are G, B, D, F, A, C, E, G, B, D, F. So all we have to do is to count up G, B, and that note is, you got it, it's D. Now, if we were to put a note in a space, let's choose this space right here. What we have to do is to look at what the space is, how they count, how is it that we remember it. Now remember, G, B, D, F, A, C, E, G, B, D, F are the lines. Our spaces will be the opposite. A, C, E, G, B, D, F, A, C, E. So all you have to really remember is G, B, D, F, A, C, E. G, B, D, F, A, C, E. That's it. And once you remember G, B, D, F, A, C, E, you can figure out the lines or the spaces. And you know that the lines start with G, B, D, F, and the spaces start with A. So if we should separate the spaces, it would be A, C, E, G, B, D, F, A, C, E. And we have written it out here. A, C, E, G, B, D, F, A, C, E. So let's say you want to figure out what note this is. Just go to the spaces and count them up. A, C, E, G. And that note will be G. Let's try another one. Let's say our note is on this line. A little bit more difficult because we have to count from the lowest line up. And once you remember G, B, D, F, A, C, E, G, B, D, F, we should be fine. So we go from the lowest line, G, B, D, F, A. But remember that C comes in between. The common mistake I see is where you will count G, B, D, F, A, C. But no, remember that there's a line between the bass clef and the treble clef, a ledger line, and you will not see it unless there's a note on it. So it's easy to make the mistake that it's not there. So we go up G, B, D, F, A, C, E, G, B. And that note will be B. All right. So another way to remember it is that we have to, if we remember G, B, D, F, A, C, E, G, B, D, F, then all we have to remember that last four lines on the treble clef will be G, B, D, F. And we can figure it out that way. Let's try one more. Let's try this space right here. Remember now, it's A, C, E, G, B, D, F, A, C, E for the spaces. So if we go from the lowest space, A, C, E, G, now remember, because the line is in the middle of the treble and the bass clef, there are two spaces that occupy that middle portion. So it will be A, C, E, G, B, D, F, A, C, E. And this note will be E. Now, and we can do it all day going from line to space, line to space. Now, this is what you need to remember. You have to practice them over and over and over again so that you can remember them. Because when you're actually playing and you want to get to them fast enough, there's no time to count them up. You'll have to practice them from before. And that's easy because you're the kind of student that practices. And remember, don't practice till you get it right. Practice until you cannot get it wrong. Good. So, knowing all of this, we are going to play some music. right now. So, our first song, let us turn to, let's try Worthy, Worthy is the Lamb. And Worthy, Worthy is the Lamb is 246 for those who have the Seventh-day Adventist hymn book. Now, Worthy, Worthy is the Lamb. Now, if we should put that on the screen, we are going to be putting together now the right hand and the left hand together. So, we should by this time be practicing, and we should know how to play the melodies. So that's the first thing you practice. So, very, very good. Now, so when we learn how to play the right hand and we get comfortable with the right hand, what we want to do now is to add the left hand notes to it. Now, remember, we spoke about the measures. We're going to be playing that first note in the measure in the left hand. And in that first line, that note in the left hand is the second space from the bottom of the F clef. And what is that? Let's count it up. The first space is A, the second space is, got it, C. So, for the entire measure, we'll play just that one note and we sustain it. And that is C right here. So, for the first 4 notes, and that's it. Now, if we look, the first note in the second measure is G. So, now it's important to mention here that we can play this G or we can play this G. In the left hand, it really doesn't matter. So, now, why did I switch before the end of the phrase? Well, let's see what would happen if I didn't switch. You'll hear that there's something that doesn't sound too right. It didn't resolve. So we have to go to the next note that is just below the note that it doesn't resolve on, which is that G. And that G is on the word lamb. So it will be. And remember, I tell you, if it don't sound right, it's not right. So if it don't sound right, look for other clues in the music itself. G and resolve to the C. Now, the next worthy, worthy, it starts here. And in the left hand, that first note after the measure is F. And then you resolve it again. So it's E. So let's try that from the top. So we start with C, and that will hold C for the entire measure. Then G. Then we resolve to C. Then the third measure is F. Then E. Then we resolve to C. So you see a kind of pattern there. So let's put everything together there. Very, very good. Let's look at the next measure. It starts just the same way, resolved the same way in the first two measures. Sorry. Same way as we did the first two measures. Now the last two measures in the verse where we play. So we see the first note in the measure is F, and then we see a second note. Then that first note in the next measure, C. So why is it that we couldn't sustain the F? Because of course it wouldn't sound right. That doesn't sound right. But when you go to the G, then resolve on the C. So let's review. The verse, we have C for the first measure, then we go to G, resolve to C, then F, then E, resolve to C, then C again, G, resolve to C, then we have F, G, C. Let's put the whole thing together, and that's the left hand, okay? Okay, now remember, when we are choosing our left hand notes and you want to make it simple, you choose that first note in the measure. And you can normally, but not all the time, you can hold that note until the end of the measure. In the event that that note does not sound too right to do the entire measure in, what we should do is that we look to the next pulse beat, which will be the third beat, and we play that note. And it holds true for this song. Okay? Now, let's look at the chorus. So that's the first two measures. And what we notice is that C is the first note in each of those measures. So we can add the C to that. Let's try that again. Now, the first note in the next measure where we play is F. So we can play. Then we go to E and resolve to C. Just like we did in the verse before. So let's try the whole first line of the chorus. Good. So now let's try the last line of the chorus. It's just as the first line of the chorus. We have C as the first note in the first two measures, and then the last two measures is just like the last two measures in the verse. So it's so we have C, then we have F, G, C. Let's try that. Very good. So now it's time to put the entire song together. Now for you, you might want to practice it a little bit more. Take the little sections of the verse and the chorus that I taught you and practice it all by itself until it becomes habit, until you can do it well. and then you put the next phrase to it. And you keep adding phrases a little at a time, and you'll get there soon enough. If you try to study the entire thing one time, you might just forget the beginning by the time you get to the end. So practice it in small pieces. All right, let's try it again. This is from the top. Very, very good. All right. So that is the first song that we have practiced now, just using our left hand. We're just adding the left hand to our melodies. Let's try another one. Let's try something a little bit harder. Let's go to 195. Now, remember, in our previous lessons, I told you about practicing in every key. Every single scale, every single key, you must be able to practice it. Now, Worthy is the Lamb is in the key of C. No sharps, no flats. Now, I think this is the first time I'll be showing you something in the key of A flat. Now, A flat, if you look at Showers of Blessing, which is 195 in the Seventh-day Adventist hymnal, it's in the key of A flat. You'll see 4 flats. And remember the cycle of fifths. And you must practice the cycle of fifths. And it will show you that A flat is 4 flats. Okay. Now, that simply means that we have A flat, B flat, D flat, and E flat as flats. Now, whenever those lines or those spaces should come up on the staff, you cannot play A when you see the A note. It must be A flat. Or B, it must be B flat. D flat and E flat just the same. Now, the natural notes or the white notes will be F, G, and C. So the scale. Okay. So let's play There Shall Be Showers of Blessing. Very good. Now, so practice that, looking at the notes and the words. Now, let us look at the chorus. And I'm going to point out something in the chorus of Showers of Blessing. If we should look at the music sheet, you'll see there is one note in the chorus where it goes Showers of Blessing. Now, that first note is tied to the second note. And that note is held for a long time. Now, it's in 6/8 timing. We won't count it today, but we know we'll hold it for a long time. Then the next note, if you notice, it's a B note, but there's a sign beside the B note that looks like a sharp, but some parts of the sharp is missing. That is called a natural sign. When that happens, we do not play the flat anymore, we play the natural. So it's, see? So instead of going, That's not the note that's written there. It's B natural. Again. So, keep that in mind. All right. Now, let's play the song with the right hand and the left hand together. So, we see, remember, in the 6/8 timing, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we count 2 sets of 3 beats. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's a swing in our 6/8 timing. So when we are looking at the left hand, let's look at the first beat and our fourth beat. So if we should divide the measure in 2, we look at the first beat and the fourth beat. So let's go back to the beginning of the song and we look at those 2 notes. So we'll see we have A flat and E flat. So it's A flat on the first and E flat on the fourth. And remember, it's the 8th note that gets 1 beat here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have A to E. Then we have back to A flat. So we have A flat, E flat, A flat. Then we see our next set of notes. So, and in the left hand, it's just E flat. So we play E flat. So let's try that from the beginning. And that's a good idea. When you're in 6/8 timing, what you can do is that you can divide to get the beats. You can divide it in that timing that's here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's a good way to count it. So in the left hand, you'll play 2 beats or 2 notes every time on the first and on the fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And that's another note that I can give to musicians, is that you try, and when you're playing, you try and keep a beat for the congregation to follow. So it would be so that's when you're playing for the congregation. Now back to our students. So we have and then let's go to now our second line, where it goes. So we have D flat, then A flat, C, then so it's F, C. Very good. So what we are going to do is that we are going to put all of that together. We're going to take a break shortly, and then when we come back, we will look at other songs. So let's put that together with the chorus. The verse. Let's do just the verse. And that is just playing the first and the fourth beat. Now, so we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to put the rest of the song together, and then we will be able to play the entire song. But don't go anywhere. We have some exciting things coming up. See you soon.
The next person in line, your friend at school or your co-worker, may have COVID-19 and not know because they have no symptoms. You, on the other hand, could be hospitalized for 2 months or more if you become infected. Is it worth it? Stay socially connected, but keep the physical distance. Stay 6 feet away and avoid a hospital stay. COVID-19 is not over. Protect yourself while protecting others. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
The point of wearing a mask is to prevent the spread of air droplets from persons who may or may not be infected. When wearing a mask, please ensure that the mask goes above the nose and below the chin. This might be a bit uncomfortable, but it's for your own safety. The position of the mask is very important. It should not be worn on your forehead, under your chin, or on your neck. Please do not remove the mask when speaking. This actually causes more droplets to be released into the atmosphere. Trust me, if you have on a mask, we will still hear you. When you're removing a mask, try not to touch the front of the mask. If you do, remember to wash your hands or use hand sanitizer. Please throw away the mask appropriately. Remember, partial protection is better than no protection.
Nice. Okay, good. Welcome back. And we are going to get now into our chorus. So, our chorus is... Very good. Now, what happens in our left hand? So, all we have to do so far is... So, all we are playing is the A flat in our left hand. That's what happens here. A flat, and we play the A flat a second time. And still A flat. So we have 3 measures of A flat. Then the last measure, it's E flat. Then we go back to our last line, which is just like, just about the last line of our verse. Sorry. So it's A flat, D flat, back to the A flat. Then E flat. So if we should review, our chorus is A flat, A flat, A flat. We have 3 measures of A flat, then E flat. Then we have A flat, D flat, A flat. Then E flat, A flat. Very good. And remember, we can use any one, doesn't matter which octave, whichever octave sounds better for you. So let's try it again, just the chorus. Very, very good. Now, so we are going to touch on our next song, one more song, just to teach this principle. And I have a feeling that I can jump into another principle today, which I will finish next week. A little bit more difficult principle. We're going to look at the song 633, When We All Get to Heaven. All right. Now, what will we do with this song? The same thing we have been doing with every other song. So if we look at the music sheet, this is 633 in the Seventh-day Adventist hymn book, we will see that for the first 2 measures, we have B flat. Now, the key is the key of B flat. So remember, from your cycle of fifths, we have B flat and E flat in the key of B flat. So remember, when you say E or B, it's always the flat. Okay? Very good. So that first 2 lines, let's try that with the right hand first. Okay? All right. So all we have to do in the left hand is we keep that B flat going. No, remember, you have to feel your own beat, your own rhythm. So you can play, or if you feel, that's okay also. All right. So the next line, we play F. So what you notice is that we have an F and we have in the beginning of the next measure A, which goes back to F, then it resolves itself on B flat. Now, instead of playing the A, we can play F. What sometimes the writers do is that they will use another note from the chord to substitute there, and we'll talk about substitution chords at a different time. But for this, the purposes of this one, we can keep the F there. So we can go B for the B flat for the first 2 measures, then F for the next 2 measures and resolve on B flat. So let's play the second line, the third measure, sorry. and we resolve. So let's put both lines together. Very good. Now the next line we have B flat, then E flat. So let's try that. So the right hand goes and the left hand is just B flat, then we go to E flat. So we put them together. So let's try it from the top now. Then the next line takes us to F. Let's try that again. So let's try the whole thing together from the beginning. Now, if we should rehearse this in our mind, first two measures, B flat. So we have B flat, B flat. Then we have F, F resolved to B flat. Then we have B flat, E flat, F, then B flat. So let's try that. Very easy, isn't it? All right. So remember, practice that part over and over. And this is a good thing of having these lessons online. You can pause and you can rewind and you can practice and then come back to that point. So we're moving fast, but you can pause these lessons and then you can go back. And they're always online just for you. All right. So the next measure starts on the word all, and that's a B flat. And all of those two measures we play B flat. Now, the next line starts on a B flat in left hand. All right, so it goes from that first note. If we're only following the first note in the measure, it goes from a G to a F. So let's try that, and which it can work. Sorry. To the F. Now, there are a couple notes that you can play in between. And one of those notes is C. So you go from G to C to F. So let's try it that way. So if you keep just the G alone, it's fine. But the C brings an interesting sound, and it would be good to add a C. So you can practice either way. Or that's fine also. So let's take it from the top of the chorus. Let's try it again. Oh, the last line that's just like the last line in the verse where we go B flat, E, F, B flat. Okay. So, let's put the whole thing together. Very, very, very good. Now, that's a principle that you can use when you're just using one finger in the left hand and one finger in the right. And just the melody notes. Now, the next thing we're going to learn, we're going to start it this time, but we're going to finish it in the next class. A little bit harder method to use, but let's try it. Now, let us go back to hymn 246. Now, we are going to add the chords. If you remember our lesson with chords, we're going to be drawing on that lesson today. Now we're in the key of C. Now, in the key of C or in any key, that note that is, or that chord that is formed on the first degree of the note. Remember, we learned how to count so we go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, if we should start on C, which is the first degree of the scale, skip a note, we'll find E, skip a note, we'll find G. That is the C major chord. Now, on the fourth degree, we do the same thing. F, skip a note, and skip a note. That's the F major chord. And on the fifth degree, on G, we do the same thing. That's the G major chord. Now, remember that we have the first, the fourth, and the fifth. They are all major chords. The third, let's start with the second, which is D. Just skipping a note. That's the D minor. That's the E minor. And the sixth, they are minors. And of course, the seventh, which is the one that we leave out, is a diminished chord. But we'll learn the use of the diminished chord at another time. Now, remember again, we discussed this before. We have the C major chord, which is C, E, G. Now, if we should mix up the C major chord and we take the C note from here and we put it up here, we have E, G, C. It's still the C major chord because it's the same notes. C, E, G. So it could be C, E, G or C, E, G. Same chord. Or if we mix it up some more and we put the E, we take the E from here and we put it up here, we'll have still the same set of notes. You'll see E, C, and E, G, C, and E, but it's the same notes. C, E, G. Still, the same major chord. Now, let me give you a good example of how to identify it quickly. When you're just skipping one note, it's easy to see. But if you play an inversion of the chord, which in this case, with a C at the top, this is the first inversion. What you'll notice is that I'm not just skipping one note, but right here, I'm skipping two notes. So the chord takes its name either from the lowest note, if we're only skipping one note, or from the note that comes after we skip two notes. You see? So if we do this, this is the C major chord. If we do this, remember after the two notes that are skipped, it's a C chord. So if we play a note, let's test the ability now. What chord is that? What note does it take its name from? Look for it where we skip two notes, and it will be the F, the F chord. What about this one? Well, we didn't skip two notes anywhere, just one note. So it takes its name from the lowest note. Very good. So that's a quick revision of our chords and our inversions. Now, in Worthy, Worthy is the Lamb, we have all right. Now, let's say we want to add chords to it. It sounds okay when we play it one note. That's okay. And when we add the left hand, it sounds even better. Sorry. That sounds even better. Now, we want to put more flesh to it. Let's add a chord. Now, how do we add the chords? What do we think of? Well, first of all, in the hymn book, the chords are spelled out for you. But let's say you want to do it a little bit quicker than that. One clue that we can use is that the bass note normally, not all the time, but some of the times, tell us what that chord is. So if we should try and guess, the first thing we should do is guess that the note that we're playing in that first note that in the measure, which in this case is C, we're going to guess that it's a C chord. So when we're playing the chord, it's going to be a C chord. So the singers are going to be singing, worthy, worthy. And that sounds okay. No, but how do we play it? We have to put the melody at the top of the chord. So C is the melody. So we have to put, so it's, so the easiest way for now is to play the chord, the left hand note, which is C. Then we add the chord, but however the chord is, this is C, but we are going to put the melody at the top because we want our congregation to hear the melody. So let's put it at the bottom and see what it sounds like. It gets lost. Because you hear this as the dominant note because it's the highest. Isn't that neat? So what I do is that I sustain the entire chord, but I play the melody while I try and sustain every other note. And by sustain, I mean hold the rest of the notes down. Some students will play the chord and then release the chord and continue playing the melody. Well, the problem with that is that you lose the body, the support of the song. So listen to it. And the support is gone. Now, all we have to do is to maintain that sound by depressing the keys and keeping them there until we need that chord no more. The next chord we're going to is the G chord, because our left hand says G. Now, the G chord, but what is the melody? If we should look at the sheet music, the melody is B, which is this note. So we want to put it at the top. But if we play the melody just by itself, so we can put that note, keep it at the top. Then the next thing is, so we want to keep this at the top, which is B. All right, so let's play that together. Very good. Now, so that is going from our C to our G. Now the next chord, the next indication, the left hand plays F. Remember, this is not a perfect science, but we can use it to guess what our chords are, right? The next one is F. So let's try the F chord. And why do I play the F with the A at the top? Is because the A is the melody. So this is the F chord that's easy to find, but we need A at the top. So we put that C note below. So let's start from the top. With a C, then G, then F, then we go back to C. Now, when we do that movement, you might want to go and then hold a different inversion of C, which is fine and which is better, but we want to make it easy today, so we just play, and while maintaining that C at the bottom, at the lowest note. So let's play it from the top. G, then F, then C. Then our song takes us almost the same place where we play that C again. And the same G. Then we have an F. We can play it this way, or whichever feels more comfortable to you. Then G does the same thing. Whichever feels comfortable to you, either can work. So then we resolve it on C, because the left hand plays C. Remember, this is the C major chord, but this is just a root position. So we play the C at the top. So let's do it just the right hand. All right, C again. G, then we resolve it on the C. Then let's try the F. Back to the C. Then we do the same thing again. G, resolve on the C. Then F. G. So let's add the left hand to that. So we're just putting both together. Let's try the chorus. Now, what is happening here? We start with a C chord because the left hand told us it was C. But what's happening here? Now, when we play the melody, C is in the left hand and it would indicate that it's a C chord. However, in the right hand is an A note, then resolves on the G. But that A note is not in the C chord. This is a C chord, that's the A note. So what we have to do is to find a chord that fits with A. And normally, especially for beginners, you want to use major chords. So it's that F chord, then go to the resolve on a C. All right, so let's try that while our left hand maintains a C. Then we have. So on the music sheet for this song, let's cheat it a little bit. We will play. So we can add chords to it, but let's play just the melody, no chords. The left hand does the same thing on the music sheet. I mean, we can add chords. Sorry. But we don't want to do that, right? Not for today. Then we have the next line, just like the first. Same thing. Then you know this movement, it coming from the end of the verse. It's the same thing. So let's try it now. Let's take it from the top. We're going to add chords to it. Very, very good. And that's it for this section. So we're going to come back and we're going to wrap up this lesson. Don't go anywhere.
Grandma, what are you doing?
I'm looking for a program on EJC to watch.
Oh, cool.
This looks like it's a good one.
Do it.
What?
Do it.
Do what?
You seriously not subscribed to EJC Virtual Church?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to subscribe to it.
Alright, let me show you.
I don't understand.
All you have to do is log in to your Gmail account on YouTube. Scroll up like this and simple. Press this button. Subscribe. Simple. Easy peasy.
Okay, it looks easy.
Alright, now if you want to use your phone to subscribe,
Yes.
all you have to do is click this big red word that says subscribe.
Yes.
Like this.
Okay.
And then you hit the notification bell.
That's easy.
Exactly. Now let's go continue watching this program.
Okay.
just to wrap up our session today, let me say a word on rehearsal. Now, this is rehearsal, whether it's on the piano, whether it's praise team, whether it's anything else that you do in worship. Some people believe that you should let the Spirit lead, and that is important. The Spirit must lead you. Some people believe that they should just go based on their own skill and what they know before. And that is good also, if you have skill and you know stuff before. However, I rather to rehearse everything that I play for church, for worship. When I take the guesswork out of what I'm doing, when I don't even have to pay attention to the hymn book, and I know the music that I'm playing, something happens to me when I am not distracted by all these other things. And what happens is that I am now, as a musician, I am engaged in worship. And that's very important. Sometimes as the musician, you come to church and you're saddled with the task of playing, of leading worship from the instruments. You yourself, you're not involved in worship. You're concentrating on what is in front of you. Now the congregation gets a great blessing, but you yourself, you are not engaged in worship. And while you are blessing people, you are not blessed yourself. This is why I have the philosophy, the thought, practice until you cannot get it wrong. We as musicians, we do make mistakes. So don't worry about making mistakes. You will make mistakes. And I know there are a few musicians that I've heard that they're so clean. Whenever they play, it's so fantastic to listen to the clean music that they play, and it sounds like they don't make any mistakes at all. That's okay and that's good. And that's how we should practice to be at the point where we will not make any mistakes, and we cannot get it wrong. But we need to practice. When you're playing for a praise team, for instance, and that praise team said they want to sing so you give them, they say they want to sing that song, and you give them the beautiful introduction. And when they start to sing, you realize that the song is too high for them. And we find that we are in a bit of trouble, because now it becomes distracting. The song doesn't sound right. The singers get very uncomfortable. And what happened? It distracts from worship. If we had rehearsed with them before, what will happen is that they wouldn't be in F. In A flat, they probably be in F. And we realize that's good and fine. And the problem is that, let's say a praise team goes up there and they start to sing. We didn't practice with them, but we say, all right, we'll play in the key that you're singing in. And we'll find them singing in a key that we are not 100% comfortable. For instance, they might be singing in F sharp, and we could have played in F or G, a more comfortable key for us. It's very, very important that we practice and we practice and we practice. And when we practice, we will be bringing pleasure to God, and we also will be involved ourselves in the worship. Because what will happen is that we stop thinking about key, we stop thinking about distraction. We're just thinking about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So that's it for today. Next week, we're going to come back and we're going to wrap up now, putting chords together with our songs. I hope that you practice, and I hope that you have been learning a whole lot. Thank you so much for those people that have been calling me and talking about the music, and those that I've seen and I've met that they have been practicing. And just keep practicing, and before you know it, you'll be a music minister. So God bless you, and I'll play this song as we go out.